Hello everyone, welcome to this lecture session of this course Heat Transfer. Today we will start another new module that is known as heat exchangers. So today we will discuss this heat exchanger, what is this heat exchanger, what are the classification of this heat exchanger, based on which parameters these heat exchangers are classified, then what is LMTD, that is actually log mean temperature difference. So the equation for LMTD for parallel flow or counter flow heat exchanger, then overall heat transfer coefficient, then the what is fouling or scaling. So this type of things which are related to this heat exchanger, all these things will be discussed in details today. Okay, so let us start this session. So what is basically this heat exchanger? So as the name suggests, we can say that these heat exchangers, these are some kind of devices which are used to transfer heat energy from one fluid to another. So typical heat exchangers experienced by us in our day-to-day life, that includes condensers and evaporators which are used in air conditioning units and refrigerators. Again, in case of thermal power plants, boiler and condensers, these are used. These are examples of large industrial heat exchanger. Again, there are some heat exchangers in our automobiles in the form of radiators and oil coolers. So these are some examples of the heat exchanger which are very familiar to us. These heat exchangers, these are abundant in chemical and process industries. So how to define this term heat exchanger? As we have seen that this heat exchanger, it is used to transfer heat energy from one fluid to another. So that definition can be like this, that it is an equipment or a device which transfers the energy from a hot fluid to a cold fluid with maximum rate and minimum investment and running cost. So this is the definition of this term heat exchanger. This is actually a machine or an equipment or a device which transfers the energy from a hot fluid to a cold fluid with maximum rate and minimum investment and running cost. Okay. So in heat exchangers, the temperature of each fluid changes during its passing through the exchangers, and hence the temperature of the dividing wall between the fluids also changes along the length of the heat exchanger. So some examples of heat exchanger, we have seen that in case of air conditioning, refrigerator, boiler or condenser, in case of automobile in the form of radiator or oil cooler. So all these things are the examples of heat exchanger which we use in our daily life. Now there is a wide variety of heat exchangers for diverse kinds of uses, hence the construction also differ widely. However, in spite of the variety, most heat exchangers can be classified into some common types based on some fundamental design concepts. So what are the different types of heat exchanger, or what are the classification of heat exchanger? So based on four different bases, we can classify the heat exchangers. Number one is the nature of heat exchange process. So here the heat exchangers can be classified as direct and indirect contact heat exchanger. Next, number two is the relative direction of fluid motion. So based on the relative direction of fluid motion, the heat exchangers can be classified as parallel flow, counter flow and cross flow heat exchangers. Next, based on the design and constructional features, The heat exchangers can be classified as concentric tubes, shell and tubes, multiple shell and tube passes, and compact heat exchangers. And lastly, based on the physical state of fluids, the heat exchangers can be classified as condensers and evaporators. So let us start the discussion for these various kinds of heat exchangers. First, it is the nature of the heat exchange process. So based on the heat exchange process, the heat exchangers can be classified as direct and indirect contact. So what is this direct contact heat exchanger? So in case of a direct contact, or it is also known as open heat exchanger, there the heat exchange takes place by direct mixing of hot and cold fluids and transfer of heat and mass. It takes place there simultaneously. So as the name suggests, in case of this direct contact heat exchanger, there is a direct mixing of hot and cold fluids, and the heat transfer and mass transfer, it takes place simultaneously. So heat transfer, we know what is this heat transfer. So in case of heat transfer, due to the temperature difference, the heat energy is transferred, but in case of mass transfer, due to the density difference, the mass gets transferred. Now the use or the application of this direct contact heat exchangers, these are like cooling towers, then jet condenser, direct contact feed heater. So these are the example of the direct contact heat exchanger. Next, in case of the indirect contact heat exchanger, this indirect contact, here the heat transfer between the two different fluids, that is called a hot fluid, it is carried out by the transmission through wall which separates the two fluid. So the example of this indirect contact heat exchanger, these are regenerator and recuperator. Okay, so what happens in this regenerator and recuperator? So as you have seen that here the transmission happens through wall which separates the two fluid in case of this indirect contact, and there is no direct mixing of the hot and cold fluid. So in case of a regenerator, hot and cold fluids pass alternately through a space containing solid particles, and these particles providing alternately a sink and a source for the heat flow. So the example of this regenerator, these are like IC engine and gas turbine. IC engine means internal combustion engine, and gas turbine. Then air heaters of blast furnaces. So these are the example of the regenerator type of indirect heat exchanger. Next, in case of a recuperator, which is another indirect contact heat exchanger, here the fluid exchanging heat, these are on either side of the dividing wall in the form of pipes or tubes. So these heat exchangers, that is recuperators, these are used when two fluids are not allowed to mix, that is the mixing is undesirable. So the example of this recuperator, these are like automobile radiator, then air preheater, intercooler, then economizer, superheater, which are used in case of a power plant. So these are some example of the recuperator type of indirect contact heat exchanger. Next, based on the relative direction of fluid motion, the heat exchangers can be classified as parallel flow, counter flow, and cross flow type of heat exchanger. Now this parallel flow, it is also known as unidirectional flow heat exchanger. So what is this parallel flow heat exchanger? Here you can see in the diagram 10.2, the schematic diagram, and the temperature versus length in that graph is plotted for the parallel flow heat exchanger or the unidirectional flow heat exchanger. So from the name itself of this parallel flow, we can say that the two fluid streams, which are actually hot and cold fluid streams, this have travel in the or they move in the same direction, and that's why it is also known as unidirectional flow. So here you can see the arrow signs, that is for hot fluid it is represented in by the red arrow sign, and for the cold fluid it is represented by the black arrow sign. So these are moving in the same direction, that is, in unidirectional flow is happening in case of the parallel flow heat exchanger. Now these two streams of the hot and cold fluids, they enter at one end and leave at the other end because these are parallel to each other. Now the flow arrangement and variation of temperatures of these hot and cold fluid streams in case of this parallel flow, we can see here in this diagram, that is, they are moving in an unidirectional way, they are parallel to each other. And from this 10.2b, that is the temperature versus length graph for this parallel flow heat exchanger, you can see that the temperature difference between the hot and cold fluids, it goes on decreasing from inlet to outlet. Okay, so the temperature difference between the hot fluid and cold fluid in case of this parallel flow heat exchanger, they goes on decreasing from the inlet to the outlet. Now such parallel flow heat exchanger, they needs a large area for the transfer of heat, and so in real life or in practice they are used rarely. The example of this parallel flow heat exchanger, these are oil cooler, water heater, oil heater, like this. Now as the two fluids, that is hot and cold fluids, these are separated by a wall in case of this parallel flow or unidirectional flow heat exchanger. So such parallel flow heat exchanger, this can be called parallel flow recuperator or surface heat exchanger. As in case of recuperator also, we have seen that the transmission of heat, it flows through a wall which separates the two fluids. So this is one kind of indirect contact heat exchanger. Next, in case of the counter flow heat exchanger, there the two fluids, they move or they flow in the opposite direction to each other. So that means the hot and cold fluids, as from the diagram 10.3 we can see from the arrow signs, that the hot and cold fluids, they enter at the opposite end and leaves at the other opposite end. So here the schematic diagram and this temperature versus length for this counter flow heat exchanger we can see here. So this counter flow heat exchanger, due to their counter flow nature, they gives the maximum rate of heat transfer for a given surface area, and for this performance of their maximum rate for a given surface area, such counter flow heat exchangers, they are mostly favored for heating and cooling of the fluids in daily life. Okay, so this is one important characteristics of the counter flow heat exchanger. Here the two fluids, that is the hot and cold fluids, they move in the opposite direction to each other, and it gives the maximum rate of heat transfer for a given surface area, and that's why they are mostly favored for the heating and cooling of the fluids. The next diagram, here you can see that the cross flow heat exchanger. Now in this cross flow heat exchanger, what happens, the two fluids, which are actually hot and cold fluids, they cross one another in space. It is usually at right angles. So in this diagram 10.4a, we can see that the hot fluid flows in the separate tubes and there is no mixing of the fluid streams. The cold fluid, it is perfectly mixed as it flows through the exchanger. The temperature of this mixed fluid, it will be uniform across any section and will vary only in the direction of flow. So in this cross flow heat exchanger, what happens, the two different fluids, that is hot and cold fluids, they cross one another in space. The hot fluids, in the diagram you can see that the hot fluids, these are unmixed stream and these are flowing through the tubes and there is no mixing. But for the cold fluids, they are perfectly mixed because they are flowing through the heat exchanger. Okay? So this is the nature of the cold flow heat exchanger. And in this diagram 10.4a, that is in the right hand side of this figure 10.4, here you can see that each of the fluid, it follows a prescribed path and is unmixed. It is written for the hot fluid and the cold fluid. In this diagram itself, it is written as unmixed stream. There is no mixing. So the temperature of the fluid leaving the heater section, it is not uniform in this case. Some example of this cross flow heat exchanger, these are like automobile radiator. So these are the concept of the different heat exchanger when they are classified based on the relative direction of fluid motion. So here we have discussed the parallel flow, counter flow and cross flow type of heat exchanger. Next, based on the design and constructional features, the heat exchanger, they can be classified as the concentric tube, then the shell and tube heat exchanger, then multiple shell and tube passes, and the compact heat exchanger. So these are the four different classification of the heat exchanger based on the design and their constructional features. The first one is the concentric tube. So what happens in this concentric tube type of heat exchanger? Here two concentric tubes are used and each carrying one of the fluids. The direction of the flow, they may be parallel or counter. So the direction of the parallel and counter we have seen in the last slide in case of the parallel flow and counter flow heat exchanger. So same thing happens in case of the concentric tube. And the effectiveness of the heat exchanger, it is increased by using the swirling flow. So this is the nature and properties of the concentric tube heat exchanger. So next we are having the shell and tube heat exchanger. So in case of the shell and tube heat exchanger, one of the fluid flows through a bundle of tubes enclosed by a shell. The other fluid, it is forced through the shell and it flows over the outside surface of the tubes. So here in the diagram 10.5a, we can see that one shell pass and two tube pass heat exchanger, it is given. So one of the fluid, these are flowing through the bundle of tube enclosed by the shell, and here you can see that the movement of the hot fluid in and hot fluid out, and also the movement of the cold fluid in and the cold fluid out. So the cold fluid, it is forced through the shell and it flows over the outside surface of the tubes. So this cold fluid here in this diagram, one shell pass and two tube pass heat exchanger, we can see that the cold fluid, it is flowing through the bundle of the four different tubes. Here you can see. So it is mixing here this cold fluid, and this hot fluid, it is moving inside these tubes. Now such type of shell and tube type of heat exchanger, it is employed where reliability and heat transfer effectiveness, these are important. So in case of the multi-pass flow arrangement or the multiple shell and tube passes, this type of heat exchangers, these are used for enhancing the overall heat transfer. So multiple shell pass, it is possible where the fluid flowing through the shell, it is rerouted. Now the shell side fluid, it is forced to flow back and forth across the tubes by the baffles. So what happens in case of this multi-pass flow arrangement? So which you can see in this diagrams, it is the third diagram here, 7.4 multi-pass flow arrangement. So in case of this multi-pass flow arrangement, to increase the surface area for convection relative to the fluid volume, so it is common there to design the multiple tubes within a single heat exchanger. So such thing happen in case of the multi-pass flow arrangement. Now here we use the multiple tubes, so it is possible to arrange to flow so that one region will be in parallel and the another portion will be in counter flow. So this thing happen in case of this multi-pass flow arrangement. So in this diagram we can see that tube side fluid passes through once in parallel and once in counter flow. So such type of multi-pass flow arrangement, we can say that it is a 1-2 pass heat exchanger, which indicates that the shell side fluid passes through the unit once, the tube side twice. So that is why it is known as 1-2 pass heat exchanger, because the shell side fluid, it passes through the unit once and the tube side twice. So this is the concept of this multi-pass flow arrangement. So why do we use such type of multi-pass flow arrangement? The main reason for using such design, it is to increase the average tube side fluid velocity in a given arrangement. So you can increase the average tube side fluid velocity. Now in a two-pass arrangement, the fluid flows through only half the tubes and any one point, so that the Reynolds number is effectively doubled. So this concept of Reynolds number, it is already known to us. So to effectively increase the Reynolds number, it is used. Now the increasing the Reynolds number results in increased turbulence. So this is obvious from the concept of the Reynolds number, which also increases the Nusselt number, and ultimately it leads to the increment of the convection coefficient. So the parallel portion of the flow, it results in a lower effective temperature difference, but the increase in overall heat transfer coefficient will frequently compensate, so that the overall heat exchanger size it will be smaller for a specific surface. Now the improvement that we achieve using this multipass heat exchanger, it is significantly large. So that's why it is more accepted to use this multipass flow arrangement in modern industries on compared to the conventional parallel or counter flow design. So this is the basic concept and application for the use of this multipass or flow arrangement. Next, we are having the compact heat exchangers. So there are some special purpose heat exchangers, and they have a very large transfer surface area per unit volume of the exchanger. They are generally employed when convective heat transfer coefficient associated with one of the fluids it is much smaller than that associated with the other fluid. So these compact heat exchangers, these are having very large transfer surface area per unit volume of the heat exchangers. So the example of such kind of heat exchanger, these are like plate fin or flattened fin tube heat exchangers, etc. Next, based on the physical state of tubes, the heat exchangers can be classified as condenser and evaporator. So what happens in case of a condenser? So in case of a condenser, the condensing fluid, it remains at constant temperature throughout the heat exchanger, while the temperature of the colder fluid, it gradually increases from the inlet to the outlet. The hot fluid loses latent part of the heat which is accepted by the cold fluid. So in this diagram, there is the temperature distribution in a condenser which is given in this 10.6. Here we can see that the cold fluid, the temperature of the cold fluid, it is gradually increasing. That is from Tc1 to Tc2. The temperature of the cold fluid, it is gradually increasing from the inlet to the outlet. Tc1 it is the inlet and Tc2 it is the outlet of the condenser. So how the temperature is gradually increasing? So this cold fluid, it takes the latent heat part of the hot fluid which the hot fluid loses. Okay, so in case of the hot fluid, the temperature it remains constant, but it loses its latent heat part which is gained by the cold fluid, and that's why the colder fluid's temperature it increases gradually from the inlet to the outlet. So the opposite actually happens in case of a boiler. So what happens in case of a boiler, that is the boiling fluid? In this diagram you can see that the cold fluid it is having in an uniform temperature, constant temperature, and the temperature of the hot fluid it gradually decreases from the inlet to the outlet. So Th1 to Th2, that is the inlet and outlet of the hot fluid in case of the boiler. So here you can see that the temperature of the cold fluid it is remaining as constant, and the temperature of the hot fluid it is gradually decreasing from the inlet to the outlet of this evaporator. So these were the different classification of the heat exchanger. So what happens in case of a heat exchanger analysis? What is the equation for the total heat transfer rate? So in this diagram you can see that the overall energy balance in a heat exchanger, it is given. To design the performance of a heat exchanger, it is necessary that the total heat transfer may be related with its governing parameters. So what are the governing parameters? Number one is the overall heat transfer coefficient due to the various modes of heat transfer. Number two is the total surface area of the heat transfer, and number three is the inlet and outlet fluid temperatures. So the m dot, that is mass flow rate, Cp, small t and delta t, these are the things that we have considered here. Now the subscript, that is small h and c, this refers to the hot and cold fluid respectively, and subscripts 1 and 2, it corresponds to inlet and outlet condition respectively, which can be seen in this diagram, TH1, TC1 or TH2, TC2. So TH1 means the hot fluid inlet and TC2 means the cold fluid outlet. So like this. So if we assume that there is no heat loss to the surroundings and potential and kinetic energy changes are negligible. So from the energy balance in a heat exchanger, we can write that the heat given up by the hot fluid, this is equals to m dot Cp into the temperature difference. So for this hot fluid, it will be mHCpH into the TH1 minus TH2. In this similar manner, we can write the equation for the heat gained by the cold fluid. So it will be mCpC, that is the specific heat for the cold fluid, and the temperature difference in the outlet and inlet of the cold fluids. Now the total heat transfer rate in the heat exchanger Q, this is equals to UA theta M. So what are these? So these are actually U equals to the overall heat transfer coefficient between the two fluids. Capital A is the effective heat transfer area, and theta M, it is the appropriate mean value of temperature difference or the logarithmic mean temperature difference, in short, which is written as LMTD, it is the logarithmic mean temperature difference. So these three equations, that is equation 10.1, 10.2 and 10.3, these are very much useful while solving the numericals based on the heat exchanger analysis. So heat given up by the cold fluid, or heat gained or heat picked up by the cold fluid, and the total heat transfer rate in the heat exchanger, that is UA theta M, where theta M is the LMTD. Okay, so what is this LMTD? The logarithmic mean temperature difference is the full form. So what is this actually? So it is defined as the temperature difference which, if constant, would give the same rate of heat transfer as actually occurs under variable condition of temperature difference. So this is actually the definition of the logarithmic mean temperature difference. Okay. So it is the temperature difference which, if constant, would give the same rate of heat transfer that actually occurs under the variable condition of temperature difference. So next we will be deriving the logarithmic mean temperature difference equation for the parallel flow and counter flow type of heat exchanger. So to derive the equation for the LMTD for various types of heat exchanger, some assumptions that we need to consider, we need to make. So the assumptions are written here. The overall heat transfer coefficient, that is capital U, it is constant. The flow conditions, these are steady. The specific heat and mass flow rates of both the fluids, these are constant. Next, there is no heat loss to the surroundings due to the heat exchanger being perfectly insulated. Next, there is no change of phase either of the fluid during the heat transfer. Then the changes in potential and kinetic energies, these are negligible. Next, the axial conduction along the tubes of the heat exchanger is negligible. So these are the 7 different assumptions that we have made to derive the expression for the LMTD of various types of heat exchanger. So let us first discuss the LMTD expression for the parallel flow. So in this diagram we can see that the flow arrangement and distribution of temperature in a single pass parallel flow heat exchanger, it is given here, that is the temperature versus area for the parallel flow heat exchanger, it is drawn, and the flow arrangement in case of the parallel flow. So the concept of the parallel flow heat exchanger, it is known to us. So based on this diagram we will now derive the expression for the LMTD of the parallel flow heat exchanger. So let us consider an elementary area dA of the heat exchanger. So in that case, the heat flow rate through this elementary area, it can be represented mathematically as dq equals to u dA and the temperature difference. It is u dA delta T. So as a result of heat transfer dq through the elementary area dA, the hot fluid is cooled by dTH, whereas the cold fluid is heated up by dTC. Now the energy balance over a differential area dA, it can be represented like this: dq equals to minus m dot h cph dth. This is equals to m dot c cpc dtc. This is equals to ud and temperature difference. So these are the actually heat given up by the hot fluid, heat picked up by the cold fluid, and the total heat transfer rate in the heat exchanger. All these things, all these relations we have written here. So dTh, this is equals to minus dq divided by m dot h cph. So this is equals to minus dq divided by ch. So this ch, this is actually the heat capacity. This is the multiplication of the mass flow rate for the hot fluid and the specific heat of the hot fluid. In the similar manner, we can write dTc, this is equals to dq by cc, that is the heat capacity or water equivalent for the cold fluid. Now this dTh minus dTc, so this can be rearranged, and ultimately we can write this d theta, this is equals to minus dq 1 by ch plus 1 by cc. So substituting the value of dq from this equation, it is the first equation 10.4 of this slide, you can write that d theta, this is equals to minus u dA th minus tc multiplied by 1 by ch plus 1 by cc. So that means this d theta by theta, this is equals to, we are getting minus u dA 1 by ch plus 1 by cc. If we integrate between the inlet and outlet conditions, that is from area equals to 0 to area equals to a, and the theta in between the 1 and 2, Then if we do this integration, then we are getting that equation number 10.6, that is as ln theta 2 by theta 1. This is equals to minus UA 1 by CH plus 1 by CC. Now the total heat transfer rate between the two fluids, this is given by Q equals to CH multiplied by the temperature difference. This is equals to Cc multiplied by the temperature difference for the cold fluid. Now from this equation, what is the value of 1 by Ch and what is the representation of 1 by Cc, that we can write as, which can be seen as 10.71 and 10.7a and 10.7b. Now substituting these values of 1 by Ch and 1 by Cc in this earlier equation 10.6, and after some steps we are getting this Q equals to UA theta 2 minus theta 1 divided by ln theta 2 by theta 1. So if we equate this equation with Q equals to UA theta m, so in that case we can write the representation of theta m, that is the logarithmic mean temperature difference. This is equals to theta 2 minus theta 1 divided by ln theta 2 by theta 1, or it is also represented as theta 1 minus theta 2 divided by ln theta 1 by theta 2. So this is actually the representation of the LMTD, or logarithmic mean temperature difference in case of the parallel flow. So this is the end for this lecture. In the next lecture we will start with the LMTD expression in case of the counter flow. Okay, so this is the end for today's session.